Դաշնակցությունը բազմիցս հնչեցրել է, որ այս արձանագրությունները հակապետական արձանագրություններ են եւ բազմաթիվ վտանգներ են իրենց մեջ պարունակում, այդ թվում նաեւ ցեղասպանության ճանաչման հետ կապված։ Ինչու ձեր կարծիքով Սերժ Սարգսյանը գնաց այս քայլին չէր կանխատեսել հնարավոր այդ զարգացումները Թուրքիայի կողմից ցեղասպանության ճանաչումը կանխարգելելու այդ հանգամանքը։
We can only really judge the actions of the Armenian government by the results, and we've seen after more than a year of this roadmap process that Armenia made a serious concession on the Historical Commission. Armenia made a grave error in agreeing in that document to the current illegal border for Armenia. Armenia gave an excuse to members of Congress and the U.S. government to defer recognition, derail recognition of the Armenian genocide, and we see that Turkey now has increased leverage in the Karabakh peace process. So we see four very concrete negatives, liabilities, costs to the Armenian nation, and I don't think that today we can point to one single benefit of this diplomacy. I'm not sure why. I think that's a good question to ask the president, but I think today there's a growing realization in the Armenian government about the really serious mistake that was undertaken a year ago. I think that at the current moment we're seeing, I think, a reevaluation by three of the parties to this issue. We're seeing a reevaluation on the Armenian side because the Armenian people have spoken in the homeland and in the diaspora. I think the common sense, basic common sense of the Armenian people has said that this is a very bad deal, and I think the government is listening, and they deserve credit for that. So I think there's a reevaluation in Armenia. Within Turkey, there's a bit of frustration because their plan from the first day was to use these protocols not to open the border, but to block the recognition of the Armenian genocide and to avoid responsibility. The American government looking in saying, Turkey promised a year ago that this protocol process would lead quickly to the opening of the border, but they saw that Turkey, having accomplished one goal on the border and on the commission, historical commission, move the goal line, move the end position to now Karabakh. And if they were to get Karabakh, they would move it to something else. And the American government, I think, sees that. They see that they had been lied to and manipulated. And I think that within the White House, within the State Department, there's a growing impatience with Turkey. Our hope is that that will take a more concrete form in the coming months.
Նախագահ Սերժ Սարգսյանը կասեցրեց արձանագրությունների եւ ավերացման գործընթացը եւ այս պահին կարծես թե որևիցե զարգացում չի երևում հայ-թուրքական հարաբերությունների գործընթացում, ինչպիսին պետք է լինեն այս փուլում Հայաստանի քայլերը եւ դեռ ինչքան Հայաստանը պետք է սպասի Թուրքիային, որպեսզի վերջինս պատրաստ լինի վավերացնել այս արձանագրությունները.
I would say that time has passed. Everybody involved, that Turkey has used this process for its own purposes, to continue its denial, to continue to block recognition. Their interest is in a process, right? Our interest is in a result. And as long as we let them play this game, they will take as long as they possibly can. I think the best answer for Armenia is to listen to the Armenian people. And I think the Armenian people have spoken and said that Armenia needs to remove its signature from these documents. And if Turkey wants to play games, that is its right. But the Armenian people don't have to be part of their game. I would say that the passage of time only serves Turkey's campaign of denial and campaign to pressure Artsakh. So it would seem to me that the wise decision would be to no longer play that game. Turkey has shown that it's a game. It's not. They're not interested in the result. They're interested in the process. And I think that just a common sense solution would be, well, you play your game, right? And we're not going to be part of it. I think that again, that's a really good question for the president of Armenia. I think the people of Armenia, through demonstrations, through the many articles that have been written, through a lot of the media accounts, the political parties, and certainly the diaspora, have shown that there's really no reason for Armenia to remain engaged in this very artificial process. I think ultimately, in societies, more slowly or more quickly, governments eventually follow the will of the people, and we're hoping that that will happen soon in Armenia.
Ինչ եք կարծում, ինչու Հայաստանը ետ չի կանչում ստորագրությունը եւ դեռևս սպասում է, ինչ խնդիր է լուծում?
those are good questions for the president of Armenia.
Դաշնակցությունը մեղադրում է նաև նախագահին այն բանում, որ եթե չլինեին այս արձանագրությունները, ԱՄՆ նախագահ Բարակ Օբաման կճանաչեր հայոց ցեղասպանությունը, կարտասաներ ցեղասպանություն բառը.
To understand that, let's go back to last April, when April 21st and April 22nd, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Matt Riza, traveled to Yerevan and spent essentially a full day in the Armenian Foreign Ministry with the Armenian Foreign Minister, working very hard to push Armenia's signature on the roadmap. Why? If you ask yourself why, the answer is clear. It is so that the president would be given the political cover not to recognize the genocide. Again, if you want to understand people's motives, if you want to understand their interests, look at how they spend their time and their energy. And in late April of 2009, the U.S. government invested heavily in an Armenian signature on a document, on the roadmap. Why? Why on April 22nd? Because they wanted to avoid recognition on April 24th. I think that's obvious, I think, to anybody who looks at the situation.
Հաշվի առնելով Թուրքիայի պահանջները կապված Լեռնային Ղարաբաղի խնդրի հետ, որ մինչև որևիցե առաջընթաց այս հարցում չլինի, սահմանը իրենք չեն բացելու։ Ձեր կարծիքով առաջիկայում հայ-թուրքական սահմանը կբացվի, թե ոչ?
It's a Turkish decision, and I think that the Turkish government has shown that they use the possibility of opening it as leverage. They have turned their blockade, which is a violation of international law, into a commodity, right? And they use that commodity, right, not to obey the law, not to end a blockade of a poor nation, right, but instead to force a settlement of the Karabakh conflict, to force Armenia into signatures that create a commission to study the genocide or acknowledge an existing illegal border. They've used the idea of lifting the blockade as a commodity to advance their political agenda. So I think that, again, if we look at their behavior, right, if we look at how they've acted in the past, we can make a good guess as to how they will act in the future. I think what they will do is what they've done, which is to use the blockade as leverage to accomplish their other goals.